And now, it's time for the Well-Read Llama with your host, author Erin Mifflin.
Hello, listeners. I hope your summer is rolling along well. Did you grow up loving the occasional Western story like I did? Or maybe a good prairie romance? Maybe a wagon train novel or a mail-order bride story too. I still love a good one every now and then, and if you do too, then this is going to be the perfect show for you. Today, I'm interviewing Wendy Klopfenstein, author of A Secret Heart, a mail-order bride story, but with a twist. Have you seen the movie While You Were Sleeping? This takes that movie and crosses it with the mail-order bride storylines you might be familiar with. I can't wait to tell you more. Before we begin, please take a moment to follow me on social media to keep up with all the latest news on who we'll be interviewing next. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram at author Erin Mifflin. I don't want you to miss out. Now, let's bring in our guest. Well, hello, Wendy, and welcome.
Hello, how are you, Erin?
Doing well. It's good to talk with you today.
You too.
Now, your new book, A Secret Heart, just released. What can you tell us about this take on a mail-order bride story?
Well, if you know me, you know that I love finding humor and a way to smile through things. So it only made sense that I would pick a mail-order bride theme with a bit of a rom-com flavoring to it. So you have Rebecca Edwards working at the local paper, who has always pined for her neighbor Isaac McGraw. So when his brothers place a mail-order bride ad for Isaac, she is faced with the decision of, do I answer this letter and go after, the rancher I have always wanted, to be with? What she doesn't know is that his brother Ed is the one who's actually been tasked with answering the letters that come for Isaac. So you have a fun scenario there with a lot of you've got mail vibes going on, and it's really fun.
Yes, and also a little bit of While You Were Sleeping too.
Yes.
So what was your inspiration to cross the mail-order bride stories with some of these movie storylines that we're more familiar with?
Like I said, I've always kind of liked the fun side of things, and it just hit me as I was thinking about for the submission for Sunrise to write this. I think the movie The Shop Around the Corner really came into my brain, if you've ever seen that with Jimmy Stewart,
That's a
which
fun
was kind
one.
of a precursor to You've Got Mail. And I thought, oh, what would happen? If somebody had this mail order bride ad, and how would that come about that they wouldn't know who was writing on either end or who was answering? And that's kind of where it came from. And as we were planning, it was like, well, there's just this little dab of While You Were Sleeping here and there, and a bit of You've Got Mail vibes, and it just evolved from there.
Right. And so what's great is that in those stories, the two people, neither one of them know who they're writing to. But in this one, only one person doesn't know. She thinks she's writing to Isaac when she finds out later, oh, it's been the other brother, the one that she can't stand. So,
right. And there is a point in the story where, even Ed is in the dark as she signs it with just her initials. So it makes it fun with all of that going on. Yes.
Now, for readers who might become interested in the brother that Rebecca does not end up choosing, is there a book to tell his story?
There is book 4 in the series, A Dangerous Heart, by Lacey Williams and Wendy Gallinetti, releases July 29th. So it is not far off for that one. They don't have long to wait at all to find out what happens to the brother that Rebecca does not end up with.
So you publish with Sunrise Publishing, and can you share about their publishing model and how you came to be a part of this Mail Order Bride series with Lacey Williams?
Yes, back in, I believe it was 2022, I saw the Facebook live chat with Lacey. So they would do what they called a season, and they would bring in a already published author and have tryouts for other authors to write with them, like a mentoring relationship, which is just an awesome experience. So I remember listening to it, and it just clicked with me. I was like, I just so feel this connection for that, historical, I love, with a Western feel to it. And then we suddenly unexpectedly sold our house. We didn't even have it on the market at the time. We just had a friend that was like, yes, I would like to look at it. And we ended up selling the house. And so you can only imagine the craziness that was going on for the next couple of months as we packed and all of that. And then the deadline was fast approaching, and I was like, Lord, I had kept listening to a lot of Lacey's Wind River books because it does connect in with her Wind River series as I've been packing. I was like, Lord, I'd really like to do this, but the deadline is so close. So I just really prayed and asked him to help me and just set aside some time. I believe it was just the week before the deadline, and just set aside a couple of blocks of time and said, Lord, I need your help if I'm going to do this. But I knew in my heart, if I never did it, it wouldn't happen. But what if I did? And, as they say, the rest is history.
Yes.
I am so glad that I took that chance. And one of my biggest takeaways that I try to tell people, I've had other authors be like, well, do you think I should submit this to this thing or that thing? And I'm like, the worst that can happen is you don't get it.
Right. Yeah, I think about that too. That's already going on, right? There's already nothing happening. If you continue to do nothing, right, it's just going to stay the same. And so the worst that can happen is it just stays the same. But
right,
you never know when you knock which door you're going to knock on, and it opens, and that's the right one.
Yes. And just prayerfully move forward. And I think the Lord taught me a lot in that too. As you move through life, you just prayerfully move forward and see what he opens for you.
Yes. It does take a lot of courage to go down this path as a writer, and hoping and waiting. But yes, there does come a point when, if God's called you to this, he's going to open the door. We don't know which one it is, but if he's called you to it, it will happen.
Yes. And each piece is a learning experience, no matter what happens as you move forward.
Yes. And have you always wanted to be a writer?
I think more than always consciously thinking that I wanted to be a writer, I knew that I always had a story in my head. So as I grew, I wanted to bring that joy to others that I got when I read a good story. And then you begin to think, hey, I could write this down. I could share it. And so it blossomed from there.
And so as someone, who's always had that storytelling dream and that desire, so it finally came, the release day for A Secret Heart. And what was that like for you?
You build up to it and you wait for it with all this anticipation. And then it gets there and it feels so surreal. You wake up and you're like, well, it's a normal day, but yet it's releasing. And this is, what you've worked so hard for. And it was more a mix of nerves and excitement, like pinching myself, being very thankful, trying not to look at ratings all day, trying to keep myself busy so I wouldn't think about it as much, but still thinking about it, and just amazed at the blessing. Hey, we're here. It seems like it took so long in the middle of it, but then you get there. It's like a lot of things in life, then you get there and you're like, wow, and it's here. And, thank you, Lord. And yes, it was a mix of emotions.
That's very fun. So I know this one is a historical. Do you plan to keep writing historicals, or do you plan to write some contemporary as well?
Right now, I am planning on continuing with historicals. Not to say that, never on a contemporary. In the past, I have written some. They're sitting in that drawer, that every writer keeps as they were learning the different pieces of writing. There's some in there just kind of waiting to see if I'll ever pull them out, polish them up, and, do something with them. But right now, the focus is historical. We'll just see what happens in the future.
Yes. Now, you and I met through the email groups of American Christian fiction writers, and it just seemed like we were always interested in similar things, and we're always running into each other. So I reached out to you, kind of to form a friendship, and then we've been able to meet in person several times, which has just been so much fun. And so do you recommend ACFW or other writing groups for aspiring authors?
Definitely recommend writer groups like ACFW. I'm also part of the Faith, Hope, and Love Christian Writers. The learning, the support, it's invaluable. You meet people that are all along the publishing pathway. You meet people that get you. There's just, as a writer, there's things that you can sit there and talk about and have that support, things that you go through that other people may not be familiar with. And so that's invaluable. There's a learning curve, if you're wanting to work toward getting published. There's also a lot of different paths to being published. So it's helpful to have the input when you're trying to make decisions along the way, so you have other people to talk with, mentor you, be like, what are your goals? And then they can tell you how they got where they are. And everyone's path is different, but you need to make informed decisions as you move through that process. And it can be extremely helpful.
Yes, I would definitely echo that. If you are someone who is an aspiring writer, there really is, it's not the same to have friendships with people who are not writers and then friendships who are writers. They're both absolutely wonderful, but they're different in their own way.
Yes. When you start talking about a character, deciding to do something that you didn't see coming, people who aren't writers kind of look at you like, well, aren't you the one writing this? Or are you the one planning this? Like, well, this character just did this.
Yes.
So, yeah, it helps.
So this book, A Secret Heart, is set in Wyoming. Do you ever think you'll write stories set where you've lived, like in Oklahoma or Missouri?
Like I talked about those contemporary City in the Drawer, some of those actually were set in states I have lived in. And there's certainly, when I was a child, we did move a lot. So there's certainly a lot of places I could pull from. Right now, the states like Montana, Wyoming, Texas, they lend a little more towards the Western type of stories, but Oklahoma would too. I don't have any plans at the moment with what I'm working on, but you just don't know. I'm totally open. It's more like I kind of get the characters and what's going on with them, a story concept, and it's like, where does this fit? Where do they come from? Where does this play out at? So I don't necessarily pick the location first.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how that works for each author.
Yes, everyone has their process.
Yes. And, I like to write with like real historical events. So a lot of times for me,
right.
it is more the setting that comes first. And
True.
it's always, like you were saying, with other things, there's always different paths to publishing. There's different ways that the stories come to us as writers.
Yes. Of course, the one set in Wyoming, that tied in with Lacey's world that is, in her Wind River books. So
right.
You had that tie in there. Yes.
Yeah. So you've had a few short stories published with Spark Flash Fiction, and I've never thought that flash fiction was really a good fit for me, but I've started to think about it a little more recently, as sometimes when you write the long projects, it can take so long to get through them. And there's just such satisfaction when you can write something that's shorter. So I've been starting to think about that, even just as an exercise for myself, and maybe trying out for Spark Flash Fiction or something like that. But can you share with our listeners what flash fiction is, and then specifically where they can find your stories there?
Basically, flash fiction is considered a story less than 1,500 words, which seems, when you're looking at novels that are 100,000 words or 80,000 words, it seems like quite a feat to boil it down to 1,500 or less. Now, Spark Flash Fiction, they ask for 1,000 words or less for their online magazine submissions. So basically, I will pick a moment in time and weave in like very sparse backstory, what the reader would need to know, though, to make it feel like these people, to make it feel like a real story and give them their, happy ever after with it. So I still have to come to the page, understanding the characters, what they want, why they're there. But it's very, like you said, it's very fulfilling because it is a short process. It has its own pieces that you have to get used to, I guess I would say, because you are condensing it. So I think it's that picking that moment in time. Where's that moment that's going to really pack a punch for the story, and how do you bring the reader up to speed of how we got here to this scene and what's happening, so they feel invested with the characters that are going through it. But it is very rewarding. It does not take, obviously, near the time as a full novel, and the whole process from submission to contract to edits, because Spark does do the editing process just like you would for a book. So all of these pieces run much quicker because it is so much shorter and you're in a smaller time frame. And then seeing it out there and getting to share it with people happens much quicker. And it is very fun. It's very enjoyable. I've really liked it. At this point in time, I have 4 different stories with them. If you go to sparkflashfiction.com, there's a link there to recent issues. I have one in the last one that was released, Love is a Battlefield, called A Sailor's Letter. And the fun fact about that is the main character of that flash fiction story is a minor character in a novella I wrote called A Surprise Harvest Bride. So, and you can get that novella when you sign up for my newsletter on my website. But most of the stories I've had in prior issues, they're either now on my website in my blog area, or you can also find them in the prior issues on Spark Flash Fiction's website. And the next issue they have releasing will have Lacey Williams as the featured author. So you'll want to look for that one too.
Just to give listeners who might not be familiar with the concept of word count as much as we are, so when you're talking about 1,000 or 1,500 words, that's really only about 3 to 5 pages.
Yes,
so it is a very brief story.
Yes, it's kind of like one scene in a book. You know, if you're reading your chapter and you kind of see, you know, a scene with a scene break, it would be that piece for that one scene, basically. Yes.
Yes. And it is interesting because I've read some of them, just how much, even in that such a short window, you really do.
Yes.
You can, a good writer can just bring you right in and give you a little taste to tickle your imagination and bring you into their world. Even
and to feel invested with the characters. Like I said, I think the easiest ones for me to write are if I already know who these people are, what's going on with them, why are they here, you know, so that hopefully that comes through to the reader, that they can feel that.
Yes. So you work for a family business. How long has your family had the business, and what's it like to invest personally in your clients?
It's been going for over 40 years. So
wow.
It's been going for a while, yes. I remember as a kid, you know, going to help out like on Christmas break or something, I'd be reformatting floppies in the back room. But we've seen multiple generations, you know, at different points of our clients as well, you know, as their kids or grandkids have taken over their businesses, as well as them seeing us grow up. Many of them remember, you know, my son when he was a baby. So they're all invested in me being a grandma, and they want all the latest updates on my grandbaby. And some of us share, you know, I know we have one client that I can remember when our kids were little bitty, and now we're both talking about our grandchildren together, you know, things like that. So it's really fun having that connection with them. I enjoy that, just being able to help them. And yeah, it's been great. We have friends as well as clients in that, and that's a nice feeling.
Yes. So that sounds like very fulfilling to be able to do that. So it's more than a job, you know.
Right.
Yes.
It's connecting with people as well. Yes.
Yes. And so as you mentioned, you became a grandmother for the first time earlier this year. And I know your grandson is one of the delights of your life.
Yes.
So what do you enjoy doing with your little guy when you watch him?
He loves being outside. So, you know, I'll stick him in the stroller. We go for walks, and we like to sit on the porch listening to the birds. He loves to touch all the flowers. He is just totally a nature lover, which I think is really nice. It is getting very warm here in the summertime. So, you know, Grammy's like, hey, it's a little warm out here, but we're going for it. You love the outside. Okay. I sing a lot to him, which is funny because it's not like I'm like really musically talented, but he seems to love that. And coming from a family full of readers, of course, he's already been introduced to books. Oh, yes. And even as little as he is, he loves, you know, turning those board book pages and having you read the same thing over and over. And that's a beautiful thing, watching that, passing that on.
Yes, that has to just be a great feeling to see that already in him when he's just a few months old.
Yes.
So what are some of the other joys in your life?
I would say, of course, my family, my faith. I love getting the opportunity through writing, because I do nonfiction short stories as well. So getting to share stories of what the Lord has done in my life is a great joy for me. And if anyone's ever seen my biography anywhere, in my bio, they call it, I love being outside reading. Just taking even 15 minutes a day with a book and an iced tea in the sunshine, that's just relaxing to me. Love taking walks, so Levi and I are on the same page there, and my little grandson. And the sunsets, just the simple things in life. We have to remember to take those moments, even if we may be hectic all day long. Give ourselves, 10 minutes, 15 minutes of just a little bit of nature, a little bit of quiet, just a little bit of calm, and it's restoring to me.
Yes.
So, yes, I love that.
So is there a scripture that has been meaningful to you recently?
I have a lot that I have clung to at different times in my life. Recently, Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, and them that are called according to his purpose. I've just seen the Lord work different things in different ways than I would have even imagined. A lot of times we will apply that scripture to something that from our eyesight looks like it's going wrong, and we're like, okay, we know there's a purpose and there's something working out, but he's even been showing me another level of that lately, just through some different circumstances. And so that's one I've just been clinging to. All things work together.
Yes.
He has a purpose.
Yes, that's such assurance for us when
Yes.
we have our worries or we have our fears, or like you said, even when we have our joys, just to see, he's working all of these things together for good.
All of them, all the pieces, and even showing how, we can help others and how he can use us even with that. He can work all things.
Yes, I see that too.
As well. Yes.
Yes. In my life, I really like the phrase that God uses everything in our lives,
Yes.
And a lot of times it is not the way that we anticipate that he will use them.
Right. So much. We have a plan. I think that's one of the things that really resonated with me writing Rebecca in this book, A Secret Heart, because she had it all planned out. Yep. She knew what she wanted. She's going after it. She's got it in her mind how it's going to be. And the Lord's like, hey, I have something different for you. I have something better for you than what you imagined.
Right. So our job is to just trust him through that and welcome what he brings, even when it's not what we expect.
Yes. Yes.
And where can readers connect with you?
Thank you for asking. I always enjoy connecting with the readers. WendyKlopfenstein.com is my website. I know that's a mouthful on the last name. But you can sign up for my newsletter there. When you sign up, you can grab the free novella that I was talking about too. So that's fun. You can find me on most social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram. It's Wendy Klopfenstein author. And with the Wendy Klopfenstein at Goodreads, BookBub, Amazon, I always appreciate new followers if you're interested in keeping up with what's going on. And those are the different places people can connect with me.
All right. And I hope that they'll find you and become friends and reader friends and all of these things.
Yes.
Listeners, please do go to Wendy's website to find out more about her and her stories. Let me spell her name for you. WendyKlopfenstein, WendyKlopfenstein.com. She sure is a sweetheart and a good friend. If you've read Wendy's story or are looking for others like it, do check out the rest of the Wind River Mail Order Bride series with authors Lacey Williams, Martha Hutchins, who is one of my local writing friends as well, Wendy Gallinetti, and Tracy Summerall. As I mentioned earlier, I grew up reading a fair amount of Westerns, and some in the Christian fiction market that I really enjoyed were by Stephen Bly. I read a ton of his books as I was growing up, and he has gone on to be with the Lord, but he was one who really fostered in me just the love of an adventure. And he has some historicals. My family would probably say that his Stuart Brannan series is his most classic series. I also like his Code of the West series, and he has the Fortunes of the Black Hills. He has some young adult series that are YA, which I loved as well. He also wrote contemporaries, and they are set in Western settings. And so the Horse Dreams trilogy was one that I have enjoyed. His YA series, the Lewis and Clark Squad Adventures, I loved those because not only are they in a Western setting, but they also are about a basketball team and about friendship and just the summer adventures that these kids have together. I still love reading those books today, even though I am well past young adult. But they have such great memories for me, and I really love and appreciate these stories. They are definitely on a treasured spot on my bookshelf, and I still enjoy going back and rereading them over and over again. So definitely check out Stephen Bly if you are looking for Christian fiction that has the Western flavor. Some other ones who are more recently published would be Regina Jennings, and she actually has some. A lot of hers are set in Oklahoma and Missouri, like I was talking about with Wendy. She has some that are set even very close to where I live, and so those are fun. She is also one who writes with a lot of humor. Another author that you would probably recognize because she is very well known today and just super loved as an author is Karen Whittemire, and she has a lot of great Westerns, as well as more recently she's been doing fairy tale retellings, but taking them in a Western setting. So Karen Whittemire is one that would be highly recommended, and she is also one that we have interviewed here on this show. So that's a lot of fun too. Wendy and I were talking earlier about meeting through American Christian fiction writers. And as always, this is a group that I highly recommend. And it is not too late to register for their national conference coming up in September. If you are an author or an aspiring author, if you have a story in your heart, the American Christian Fiction Writers is a place where you can go and learn about the craft of writing, learn about these paths to publishing, learn from people who have been there before, and also just be really encouraged in your faith, as well as make wonderful friends. The Christian writing community is an amazing place, and there is room for you. So you can find out more by going to acfw.com. You can also reach out to me if you have any questions. I would be happy to answer them for you or point you in the direction of someone who can. But yes, I would love to have you there. The conference is going to be in Springfield, Missouri at the beginning of September. So acfw.com, go and check it out. And to reach me, you can follow me on social media at Facebook or Instagram at author Erin Mifflin. And you can visit my website and sign up for my monthly newsletter as well. You can find me at authorerinmifflin.com. Until next time, happy reading.
Join us next week for another episode of The Well-Read Llama with your host, author Erin Mifflin. If you'd like to find out more about author Erin Mifflin, visit her Facebook and Instagram accounts.